Cowboys.
You grew up watching Thanksgiving games, no matter who you're a fan of. If it's the Lions, the Cowboys, or whoever's playing at night, I mean, you grew up watching those games, and so I think as that kid in me wants to be able to go out there and play on Thanksgiving and find a way to win. And obviously, short week, we're grinding in here right now and getting the whole game plan in and making sure everybody's prepared and ready to go. But I think we're excited to get to go out there and play on Thanksgiving against a really good football team and the whole world watching.
And how about them Cowboys, man? The offense, 24 unanswered points to beat their divisional foe. And we're getting a look at the chance to make the playoffs here with the win and with the loss for the Chiefs and the Cowboys. Currently, the Chiefs have a 64% chance if they get a win. It goes to 74%. With the loss, goes down to 47%. The swing is a little bit different for the Cowboys, who are sitting at 5-5-1. An 11% chance with the win goes up to 21%. And then with the loss, that swing goes all the way down to 6%. So let's welcome in Lige Douzable here on set. Lige, we're going to dive in, talk about the Cowboys here. Yeah. As mentioned, the offense is not really the concern because we've been talking about Dak Prescott playing at an MVP level.
Correct.
For quite some time. At the trade deadline, Jerry Jones is very active, and he goes and gets Quinnen Williams. The splits, and you're very familiar with Quinnen as a Jets guy, right?
Yeah.
His stats in these 2 games with the Cowboys versus the other 8 with the Jets are very stark. I'm going to stop talking. How big of an impact has Quinnen Williams been, or will he be, as they try to move forward and improve that defense?
It's been a monumental impact, and it's not just him, right? Yep. Obviously, him coming in, and you see his stats, what he's done over the last 2 games, 15 pressures, 6 quarterback hits, a sack and a half. It's been what he's added as far as the rotation. Odigizua was the guy they paid this offseason. He was supposed to be the guy. I think we're seeing the best of Odigizua because of the addition to Quinnen Williams, because now you also have Kenny Clark as well. Now you can rotate those 3 guys, and now you don't have to worry about guys getting tired. You're going to get fresh guys, and you see it right here, coming at waves at the quarterback. You see Quinnen Williams doing all that damage in the middle to the Eagles' offensive line. They've needed a guy like him, and right there you see his mate, Kenny Clark. So this is what I'm talking about. Odigizua can now rotate in, and he's not asked to be the guy from day one. They didn't have the subsequent depth at D-tackle. That's why teams were able to run the ball and have their way. Now they have that depth, especially in the interior of that defensive line. That's where you need to be strong. He's made a monumental impact, and that was a great trade by Jerry Jones.
All right, you know that's music to Jerry Jones' ears of all of us saying that out loud about his moves at the trade deadline. Let's go to the other side of the ball on offense. I don't know what happens with CeeDee Lamb when he faces the Eagles, but he forgets how to catch the football.
For sure.
It seems. George Pickens, it feels like he's emerging as wide receiver 1 ever since the bye. Do you see it still going that way and towards that trajectory as we get down the stretch here?
George Pickens is a top 2 receiver in the league this year. And the only guy in front of him is Jackson Smith-Njigba. Now, Jackson Smith-Njigba has played out of his mind, but I don't know if there's a corner in the league currently right now that wants that smoke one-on-one with George Pickens, because it didn't matter what the Eagles did. And that was my matchup going into this game, Adoree Jackson versus George Pickens, because a lot of times CD gets all the extra attention. Well, he was having his way with Adoree, but then he had his way with the other Eagles corners as well. And those guys are perennial Pro Bowl type guys when you talk about Quinton Mitchell and also Cooper DeJean. So he's taking his game to the next level. It used to be he was just a 50-50 jump ball guy, Jacqueline.
Yeah.
Now he runs all around.
They have the easiest strength of schedule remaining down the stretch. Obviously, it starts with the Chiefs and the Lions, which is difficult, but then it eases up after that. Give us a record prediction during this stretch.
So when we originally did this, me, you, and Noah, I had them going 9-7-1. I think their path is 10-6-1. I have them beating the Chiefs at home this week. When you look at this Dallas team and how explosive you talked about them being on offense, I love the corners for the Kansas City Chiefs, but they've really struggled to get after the quarterback rushing the passer. You're not going to be able to cover George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson all day long. I think this Cowboys offense is so explosive that they will give fits to that Chiefs defense. And adversely, you talked about it, right? Maybe the Chiefs have found an identity being physical running the football. They ran 41 times. Well, this Cowboys defense, since Quinnen Williams has come over, has been really good against the run. And even before that, with Kenny Clark, they were much improved against the run. So, to me, that's strength on strength. Right now, the Cowboys defensive line is playing really good against the run. So, this would be interesting. I love, you talked about the defense getting significantly better. I think not only the acquisition of Quinnen Williams, but guys getting healthy. The Marion Overshawn is like their energy bug over there. There's not too many guys at linebacker that can cover Saquon Barkley to the flat and tackle him. He did that multiple times last week. So I just think getting guys back healthy has really propelled this team, and their trajectory is going up. Right now, I currently have them finishing at 10-6-1. I think that gets them into the playoffs.
Okay, 10-6-1, and then we saw it there, a plus 540 to make it into the playoffs. Let's welcome on Sportsline's Mackenzie Brooks here to the conversation. Ken, it's great to see you. We're going to have you walk us through for the Cowboys and the Chiefs, the playoff implications over the next 3 games or so. Starting with the Dallas Cowboys, where Lige has them at 10-6-1 when it's all said and done.
Finishing.
Well, I love the optimism there, and I promise my own Eagles fandom isn't playing anything into here. But in all seriousness, if you are the Dallas Cowboys, in order to get over that 50% chance hurdle to make the playoffs, you have to win your next 3 games. And while there's a chance they could beat Kansas City and a chance they could beat the Lions, we give them both around like a 37% chance individually to win both of those games here. So again, when you break it down, it seems more reasonable. But when you try to multiply and multiply and multiply 3 games in a row together, that makes it around a 9% chance to pull all 3 games off here, and that's just a crack over 50%. That gets you to around 53% chance. So we're not as high on them. The worst case scenario, you lose both of these games coming up and you fall to a 9%. The best case scenario is up to 53, but here's where things get interesting. That 1-1 split, right? Obviously beating your own conference opponents is going to be far more impactful than just getting a win in general on your schedule, like against Kansas City here. So while both a 1-1 split situation don't look that optimistic, at least if you're beating Detroit instead of Kansas City in the 1-1, you're getting to 15% instead of 10%. So the Chiefs have a little bit more wiggle room, which we can get into here. But for Dallas, you do need to win your next 3 games to get over 50%.
And Mackenzie, I'm so glad you brought that up, because if you're Dallas, the Detroit game is probably more important, because that's a team that you're vying to potentially take a wild card spot away from. So to me, and we talked about this last week, Mackenzie, when we did this with the Dallas Cowboys, I said starting with the Eagles game, they had to win 2 out of the next 3. Right? They beat the Eagles, which was big because it's a divisional game. Say they were to lose to the Kansas City Chiefs, or they beat the Kansas City Chiefs, but then they lose to the Detroit Lions. The only issue is Detroit is going to be one of those teams vying at the end of the wild card for that spot. And when it comes down to tiebreakers, you want to have a one-up on a team like the Detroit Lions. So the only way it wouldn't matter is if Detroit ends up winning the division. But if they're a wild card team, that could be a major blow for Dallas. Even if they do win 2 out of the next 3, when I'm talking about that Dallas game, if they were to lose to the Lions, that could be a major blow to them when it comes to wild card implications.
So for Dallas, it might not be the end of the world if you lose to Kansas City and then go on and then eventually beat Detroit. Could maybe work in your favor. Ken, you mentioned that there's a little bit more wiggle room with KC. So walk us through the scenarios, the next 3 games for them. How much wiggle room is there for Kansas City?
Well, it's basically the same thing we just talked about, right? I mean, the difference between beating the teams that you're head-to-head competing for wildcard spots with, head-to-head in your conference in general, those are going to be far more impactful. So yes, a win versus Dallas is great, and it's definitely the ideal situation, but it's about beating Houston, a team you're literally fighting head-to-head for with a wildcard spot that becomes far more important here. So again, right now, Kansas City beating the Colts was great for them, and 2 claps for them, and that keeps them in the race. It wasn't this drastic thing for them because they still have all of these losses to teams actually in the wild card race. Obviously, Indianapolis is in their own tier over competing for a division here. So going 1-1 for this team feels a lot more likely to still have good playoff chances here. When you look at it here, if you lose to Dallas but beat Houston, you're still in that 60% chance to make the playoff. That is so massively different than beating Dallas in the NFC but losing to your AFC conference opponent and only having a 46% chance to make the playoff. So the best case scenario for them can be all the way up to around an 83% chance if they go 2-0 in this game. But again, the 1-1 still feels like they could get in the playoffs, unlike the situation for Dallas.
Guys, I'm going to have a nice laugh.
Before we dive into this breakdown, Chiefs Kingdom, let me bring you into the moment. Picture this. The stadium is loud, the energy is tense, the season feels like it's leaning toward disaster, and every analyst on every network is already counting you out. Fans watching at home are thinking, is this really how the Chiefs fall? Down 20-9 at the end of the 3rd quarter, momentum shattered, confidence shaking, and yet somehow you can still feel something in the air. Because deep down, no matter how bad it looks, Chiefs fans know one universal truth. As long as Patrick Mahomes is upright, the story isn't finished. Not even close. And then we witnessed it. That shift, that spark, that moment where you could feel the entire sideline wake up. The Kansas City Chiefs didn't just play football, they fought for their season. They clawed, they believed, they pushed back against a Colts team that came in swinging for their own playoff lives. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't smooth, but it was pure heart, pure toughness, pure Kansas City. Mahomes delivered a fourth quarter and overtime performance that reminded the league exactly why he's the most dangerous quarterback in the world when the pressure rises. His composure, his timing, his refusal to lose, those traits showed up in every play, every throw, every decision. And for the first time in weeks, the run game joined the fight. It wasn't finesse, it was physical, it was gritty. It was the identity we've been begging to see again. The overtime win wasn't just a victory, it was a message, a reminder that the Chiefs don't collapse, they don't quit, they don't fade into the background, they rise, every single time. Final score, Chiefs 23, Colts 20. And with that, Kansas City moved to 6-5 and kept its playoff heartbeat alive. But now comes the real test. No rest, no breathing room, no time to celebrate. Because the next challenge is a Thanksgiving showdown under the brightest lights of the season, on the road, in Dallas, against a Cowboys team that just erased a 21-0 deficit against the Eagles. They're confident, they're fired up, they're desperate, and they think this is their moment to make a statement in front of the world. But the Chiefs, they've been here before. They live for these moments. Mahomes grew up dreaming of playing and winning on Thanksgiving. The Chiefs understand what's at stake. With a win, playoff chances jump to 74%. With a loss, they drop nearly 30 points. The pressure is real, the stakes are massive, but this team has already shown the grit required to survive the chaos of November football. This Thanksgiving game isn't just another matchup. It's a crossroads, a chance for the Chiefs to seize momentum, silence doubters, and remind the world that championship DNA doesn't evaporate just because the road gets rough. So, Chiefs Kingdom, I want to hear it from you. Does that overtime comeback spark a new fire? Do you believe Mahomes is about to put on a show in Dallas? Are you ready for a Thanksgiving war with everything on the line? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like, and make sure you're subscribed because the fight isn't over. It's just getting started. And here at Chiefs Kingdom Report, we ride together all the way.